All right, welcome to the Coach and Counselor, our weekly episode where we explore how today's youth benefit from intentional, empowering adult leadership. Each episode blends perspectives from coaches, mentors, players, and mental health professionals, shaping the next generation on and off the field. From tough conversations to inspiring transformations, we dive in what it takes to support young people in today's world. With that intro, we have Cephas Howard as our guest for the week. Cephas is ex-professional baseball player. Interesting transformation from a catcher to a pitcher. He'll dive into that here in a second. A musician, coach, and now a father of probably a future musician and a future athlete. Cephas, welcome to the show, and I appreciate you jumping on. Tell us a little bit about your youth growing up in Georgia, I believe, right? Tell us a little bit about your youth growing up and the sports that you played and everything that brought you kind of to where you are today. See if it's got no sound. What the heck's going on? See if you can. I know there's been no bar going up on the side for you either.
No, there it is.
Oh, there you are.
Okay,
You got it now?
I got you. I don't know what keeps happening, but but yeah. So from Augusta, Georgia.
Don't hold on. I gotta start over one more time.
I promise I didn't touch anything.
Dang it. Our weekly podcast series. We uh, we explore how today's youth benefit from intentional, empowering adult leadership. Each episode blends perspectives from coaches, mentors, players, and mental health professionals, shaping the next generation on and off the field. From tough conversations to inspiring transformations, we dive into what it takes to support young people in today's world. So with that intro, we have Cephas Howard as our guest, ex-professional baseball player, coach, ex-coach, and currently father of a young, inspiring athlete himself. Cephas has a pretty interesting background. We'll let him explain that, but with his playing career, his coaching career, and his music career. So Cephas, let take the floor here. Let's first start with talking about where you grew up and what sports you played, and then kind of take us through that transformation and evolution into playing professional baseball. Hey, Cephas, you're on. I think you're on mute. I'm not getting any sound out of you right now. I had you before, but I'm not getting anything out of you now.
What
Now,
about
now you're, yeah.
okay, okay, all right.
Um, Here, try talking again.
Can you hear me
Now,
now?
now I'm getting an echo. We're gonna have to start over.
Okay.
Um, Anything you did that,
No, I.
because I'm getting crazy echo right now.
Um, let me.
Everything was great before.
I don't think I have any
Let me
headphones.
stop the record. All right, welcome to the weekly episode of Coach and Counselor, where we explore how today's youth benefit from intentional, empowering adult leadership. Each episode blends perspectives from coaches, mentors, players, and mental health professionals, shaping the next generation on and off the field. From tough conversations to inspiring transformations, we dive into what it takes to support young people in today's world. With that, we have Cephas Howard, a Georgia native, ex-professional baseball player, coach of baseball, and inspiring musician. Cephas has coached in the baseball world in multiple different states, and as a young boy who's growing to probably be a musician and an athlete himself. Cephas, welcome to the show. Tell us about a little bit about yourself and growing up in Georgia. Nothing.
Um,
Now you got it. Now it comes through.
this is crazy. So maybe what I need to do is after you stop talking, press that
Yeah.
mute button to make sure, because I'm literally just sitting here.
Yeah, maybe just like maybe have it on mute when
Okay.
I go through mine and then come off of mute and then just say, thank you. Can you hear me? And then you can kind of see your bars and then I'll be like, yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Dang it. All right.
It's weird.
Welcome to this week's episode of Coach and Counselor, where we explore how today's youth benefit from intentional, empowering adult leadership. Each episode blends perspectives from coaches, mentors, players, and mental health professionals, shaping the next generation on and off the field. From tough conversations to inspiring transformations, we dive into what it takes to support young people in today's world. Uh, Today we have Cephas Howard, and welcome Cephas. Cephas is an ex-professional baseball player, a coach, and now a father of a young, inspiring musician and athlete himself. Cephas is going to tell us about his playing days growing up in Georgia, and also his music background and some of the things he might do the same in raising his child, but also things that he might be doing differently. Cephas, welcome to the show.
Hey Tony, can you hear me?
I gotcha. I gotcha.
All right, good. That's good. Yeah, I'm from Augusta, Georgia. Kind of got started a little bit late in baseball. I didn't start playing until I was 12. But the first, I guess you would say, 6 years of before that would be me just playing a ton of basketball and a ton of football. I wanted to be a quarterback, and they told me I was too short. And now I'm
And
six
tell
five.
everyone how tall you are. Yeah, I was gonna say you're
Yeah,
6'5", right?
yeah, I'm 6'5", and I think my junior year of high school, the football coach is like, "Hey man, like I can get you a scholarship to Georgia. Like you got to come to this camp." And I was like, "I don't want to get hit." And I'm thinking the whole time in my mind, like, I told you guys I could throw the ball. I knew I could throw the ball. So that kind of started that whole thing. But when I started baseball at 12, I really didn't have a position. I didn't know anything about the game. And then they just stuck me in left field. I struck out probably 90% of my at bats my first summer playing. Um, and I don't know why I liked it. I literally failed all the time. But then I just grew to love it, and my friends kind of encouraged me to do it and turned into a catcher. And I caught all the way through college, and then I never forget the day I told my coach in JUCO. I said, "Hey, I can throw harder than these guys that we got." And he told me to shut up and some nice, so not so nice words, and to stay behind the plate. And literally a year and a half later, I got drafted as a pitcher.
And then never behind the plate ever again.
No, I mean, you've seen me. I love to catch my bullpens for guys. I
Yep.
don't do that
Yep.
as much anymore, just because they don't know where it's going, so it's kind of tough. But yeah, so never caught again. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. Catching's kind of yeah, it's not something that I would probably do over again, but I enjoyed it.
So let's go back a little bit. You were you a late bloomer? Why did those coaches say that you were too small back then to be a quarterback?
Yeah, so I grew. I think it was just going into my junior year. I grew about 6 inches, and so like I wasn't short, but I was probably like 5'8", 6'7" or so. And then once I
Mhm.
got to the 6'2" area, I leaned out a lot. And um, yeah. So I think when I graduated high school, I was 6'4", 225.
Wow.
So that happened right at the end there.
So obviously as a player and then now as a parent and especially when you are coaching, we at least I've used this term late is great. Tell us about what your feelings are about, late bloomers and, maybe the struggles of what it is to be a late bloomer and then, kind of counteract that with the kids that grow early that are big early. What's the benefit or, the blessing or the curse when it comes to being short or being big when you're younger?
Well, I guess if we kind of go back, with me saying, I played a ton of football, a ton of basketball. Being short actually worked in my favor because I had to overcome the tall guys. And so I had
Mm-hmm.
to be a better athlete. And so then once I did hit my growth spurt, I didn't like you'll see the kid that's kind of hits a growth spurt, it's kind of like a giraffe. I wasn't that. I wasn't that baby giraffe. And so I think I can attribute that to, you know, playing other sports, and having to be agile and be able to move, as opposed to if I would hit that growth spurt at 13 or 14, uh, I probably would have been a pitcher a lot earlier.
Yeah. So, kind of obvious segue, which is, a typical conversation is early specialization in sports and, kind of knowing when to specialize and so give me your feeling now, right? What's your feeling? What's your take on when should someone specialize and, how many sports should they play and, what's the importance of being an athlete?
Um, well, I'll start with the athletic part first. I mean, if you can figure out how to move your body the way you want to move your body, which is essentially what athletics is, you're going to be able to translate that to whatever sport you want it to be in. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I know we talked about um, what my son might do, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing is making sure he can move and making sure he knows what his body's doing. And then for me, what that did was it just made the transitions easier. And so I think it's important for kids to play other sports. I think when you get to a point where you know what you're going to do, um, or what you love, I think you should put more time into that. And then if the other sports or the other things are taking away from your growth in that sport, then I think that's when you transition. Um, and baseball is a little bit different, I think, because if you're a hitter, you really need at bats. I think that was the thing that stopped me from hitting, is I probably between college and high school and whatever, I probably have less than 1,000 at bats in my lifetime. And so there
Oh,
used to be a scale where coaches would say, hey, he has to get at least this amount of at bats in order for us to know if he can hit, that kind of thing. I think they may still do that with guys in minor leagues where they want them to get a certain amount of bats before they bring them up or before they will consider them, as a major leaguer. And I think that's the biggest thing is pitch recognition, right? Velo, velo is velo, but pitch recognition is the big thing. If you haven't seen it enough, it's going to be tough to do. And so I think that's where, um, depending on your goals, you have to kind of pick and choose which direction you go.
yep. So now we can go back to we kind of left off with your playing career. You got drafted. Who'd you get drafted by? What round? And then since you were basically a catcher and a hitter for most of your life, now you might be behind the curve a little bit when it comes to pitching. Talk about all that right there.
Yeah, so the Angels drafted me in 2007 in the 37th round, I think it was. That was a long time ago. I think now there's only like
Yeah,
20 or 30,
it's
something
only
like that.
20.
Yeah, which is crazy. So yeah, that happened. It was a very interesting way it did happen, though. Um, there was this guy by the name of Steve Kring, and he had been following me since I was 16. And I was at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, and he had come over to put on a little workout camp. I don't think they do that anymore either. And I was catching, and he got upset with me after I got hit in the ribs, and he said, "You'll never be able to hit. The only chance you got to play professional baseball is to pitch." And I mean, but we had that relationship, so I was like 20 at the time. So he was talking to me kind of crazy, and it upset me, and it really upset me. And I took a ball. He yelled at me. He was like, "You're not in the dugout yet. You need to get warmed up. You're pitching next." And so I stepped out of the dugout. I picked up a ball. I had a friend in right field. I was on third base dugout. I had a friend in right field, and I threw it all the way to him. And it was probably about 350 from the dugout to there. And he said, "You're ready. Get on the mound." And so I sat 93, 95. All fastballs, didn't throw anything else. And he came up and he was like, he started talking to me softer. And I was like, I must have did something good for him to change his tone a little bit with me. And so he showed me how to hold a slider, and I it was good. It was just a good day for me. And afterwards, he told me what I threw, and he was like, "Give away all your bats," like kind of thing. Because I had a ton of wooden bats. I had a bunch of friends who were playing pro ball. Um, so yeah, that happened, and from there, I really didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. And I would just throw. And I think kind of something we talked about before. What benefited me from not pitching early was I threw a lot. Like I long tossed and I tried to. I didn't know I was working on arm strength. I was just doing it. Um, in my head, it just felt like if I do this, then I can throw guys out. And so that led to me pitching or having good velocity. So yeah, and then when I did get drafted, it was hard because everybody else had pitched, and I'm not saying like they pitched in organized games. So like I had never got on the mound before,
Mhm.
and so one of the toughest things was as a catcher you look out to the field, and as a pitcher you look into the stands, and so that was probably one of the hardest things was looking at people look at you.
Yeah.
And so my first couple months it was difficult, but um, I worked a ton with my coaches, my pitching coaches, and I just knew that I had to work in order to stay there. And so when other guys would be in the locker room, I'd be on the mound, and then the coach might come out and find me there. And so
Mm.
essentially, I would get a one-on-one every morning before we started, just because I beat everybody else out there.
So it sounds like you had, obviously blessed and gifted with some physical presence, some size, right? And then your work ethic sounds like was pretty amazing. Where did you learn that work ethic? And and then the next question to that, kind of a follow up, is there's clearly some psychological things that you might had to overcome there, right? I mean, you're physically there, you had the work ethic, but kind of looking in the stands and overcoming some obstacles there. Talk about the mental side of playing baseball at that level, as not only as a rookie, but I think you were kind of like a glorified rookie, right? Where you just had very little experience compared to the other your peers. You're behind the eight ball for sure.
Yeah, that part of it, the mental part of it for me, it was really tough, honestly. And I don't get a chance to talk about this often, but you know, people think pro ball and it's like a glorified thing. Well, your first year, depending on my situation, I had never done it before, so they put me in rookie ball. I'm clear across the country, don't know anybody, and now I'm doing something I've never done before. They think I can do it. I'm not so sure if I can do it. My first game I pitched and everything that could happen to a pitcher happened.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up. I walked a guy. I hit a guy. Gave up a home run. Got hit by the ball. Made an error. Like it was just, and that's like for real. Like I'm not just saying that. And so I never forget. I called my mom. I was like, I don't think I can do this. And she was like, what? You're out there,
Yeah.
so she encouraged me. But just going through that and being in games and hearing everything, the white noise. I talked to the sports psychiatrist or psychologist that we had, and we developed a plan, and I kind of stuck with that plan for the rest of my career. We talked about hard and soft focus and those kind of things. Um, and really, the work ethic I think came from understanding that well, going through JUCO, you kind of develop a work ethic. Um,
Mhm.
and then the other part of it for me was knowing that, hey, like if I want to do this, these guys are more experienced. I have to catch up and surpass them. And so that was kind of the thing. I was really driven by that, and I got a chance to see some big leaguers who were in there working. And I figured, I don't know why my brain always works like this, but if they're doing it, then I need to do it. And I never, I was talking to a kid the other day, like I never compared myself when I was in high school. I never compared myself to high school guys. When I got to college, I never compared myself to college guys. I always compared myself to where I wanted to go. And I believe you say this success leaves clues, right? So
Mhm.
if I can look like them or if I can do what they're doing, I might not be them, but I'll get as close as I can, and then we'll see what happens.
So it sounds like your mom too played a pretty big role in your development as a youth player, college player, and then professionally, bit of a role model to you, and obviously played a huge role. Tell a little bit more about what role she played in your development over those many years.
Yeah, so um, it's funny that 12-year-old tryout that I went to. We were riding past the recreation department, and it had a sign that said baseball tryouts. It was a Saturday morning, and it said baseball tryouts, $25. And she said, I said, hey, I want to go try out for baseball. And she said, you better not waste my $25. And so she was like, if you want to do this, we can do this, but you cannot waste my $25. And we went, I think I tried out with somebody else's glove. They let me use a bat. And then we went to Walmart and I got a Griffey glove, a Ken Griffey Jr. glove. Um, and then my dad bought me a bat, and then it kind of went from there. But like into college, high school was just kind of a thing where I was bigger. Once I hit the growth spurt, I was bigger, so I was able to do some things. I didn't really see failure that much. But once I got into JUCO, the coach literally told us that he didn't like me and my roommate. And so on several occasions, I would have to call home and be like, hey, I think I'm going to quit. I don't want to play this anymore. Like it's not fun, kind of losing sight of the goal and allowing,
Hmm.
looking at him and the circumstances. I think I made that phone call to her maybe 3 or 4 times, and every time she would say, and it would be closer to the end of the semester, whichever, so maybe at the end of baseball season or at the end of the fall. And so she would say, look, stick it out. When you come home, take some time and figure out what you want to do. And if you don't want to play anymore, that's fine. But don't allow this person or the circumstances to make you stop doing something you want to do. And that was kind of her thing. And even when I finished and when I finished my pro career, she was like, "Well, you is this what you want to do? You want to stop?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, you've been at it for a long time. Like, you've done a lot of things, and so she was still encouraging even to that point. Um, so yeah, so she played a huge role in it, and my dad as well. My dad was a little bit more hands off, to where he was like, "Hey, is this what you want to do? Have you figured out how to do it?" That kind of thing. So he was more goal oriented, like step by step kind of thing. Figure it out and then go do it. And that I think that played a huge part in my professional career as well as far as pitching goes.
Yeah. So then you get into coaching, right? And so let's kind of stay on that topic of you. Did you have any struggles with coaching kids and families, knowing that you had such a strong family support system and mom and dad that really kind of kept you involved, kept you engaged, really didn't allow you to quit, didn't allow you to make any excuses. Did you have struggles taking that leap from your career and playing and knowing that you always gave it your all to coaching kids that maybe weren't like you?
Yeah, I didn't want to coach, and
You
that's
didn't.
why I didn't want to coach. Was because I knew how much I put into it, and I paid a price for it. Like I literally paid a price for it. People don't talk about that enough. I don't think is you this is your goal. This is what you want to do, and now here are some I'm coaching now, and there's kids who just want to do it for fun, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that. But I tell kids, if you want to just do it for fun, you might want to do something else because this is a lot of work. Like, and I personally can't accept anything other than that. Um, but yeah, that was a tough thing, and also the parenting part of it too, right? So my parents being understanding and pushing and all that stuff, and then I would run into parents who weren't that, and it's like, wait, I can't, I'm not understanding this, the goal of this. And so yeah, that made it difficult. But I think I was blessed in my coaching career. I've been blessed to have a lot of kids who really want to play, and so talented kids, whether it be on the field or off the field, with a good mindset for the most part. Um, so I think that really helped. It's still a struggle to this day of helping kids out who don't really want to play or making kids understand, hey, like, yeah, I know it's hot outside, but you play baseball in the summer. So, and if you're good, you play in the summer for a long time. So, it's just those struggles of it. But you try to encourage them and try and push them and the families to understand what they're moving towards and what to expect.
So how did you help those? Let's stay on the families aspect of it first. How did you help those families in leadership roles and anything now kind of reflecting back what you would do more of or less of, specifically helping families out and getting them to understand what role they should play and or not play.
Um, well, I tried to be as direct as possible. Um,
Did
I
that
tried
hurt you
to,
ever? Did that
yeah,
hurt you?
a ton. Uh,
Yeah.
I figured out that people don't like to hear a truth. We'll call it a truth, because another coach might see something different. Um, but I think that was the one thing that I always accepted in my career was don't come to tell me like, hey, you did a great job and I just gave up a bum tonight. No, I didn't do a good job. Like, tell me what I
Mm.
can do to not do that. Whereas it seemed sometimes that people wanted to hear, "Hey, you did a great job." No, nobody cares that you walked the house. Nobody cares that you didn't get a hit. Like, you know, you did a great job. That pat on the back thing. And again, I've been fortunate to coach guys who want to play at a high level. If you don't want to play at a high level, then yeah, you get that pat on the back. But if you want that experience, then hey, there's something more that you can do to be better. And so trying to explain that to parents, I probably went overboard a couple of times, but trying to explain that to parents and um, get them to understand their own child's goal, and get them to understand that hey, you're bringing your child to me or to us because you can't do anything else with them. You've brought them as far as you can take them. Now you have to trust somebody else to get them where they're trying to go. Not that you haven't done a good job, but you just don't have the expertise in this area. Um, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Parents didn't like it. Um, Meetings were tough because I think I'm a nice guy. So I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings in that way. But I think when you're playing with people's future or you're trying to help people's future, you have to be honest about what you think.
So it sounds like, I mean, I've said this many times that, great leader is a great question asker. And I don't know a better way to say that other than, question asker. And So it sounds like you had to ask some really good questions, some probing questions to figure out what it is that that athlete wanted to accomplish within his career, and what that parent or what the family wanted to accomplish. Sometimes those are the same things, sometimes they're not. And then once you have some information about what it is that they want to accomplish, then you can help channel that direction and make the decision between, hey, here's a pat on the back, good job, regardless of what they did or didn't, because they don't have any aspiration to be a college or professional player. And then if they did, then there's a little bit more some tough love in there. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's funny though. I want to say that if you're talking about moms and dads, I think the moms were harder on the kids than the dads were, which was kind of a
Sometimes,
different
yeah.
I didn't expect that. But yeah, again, a lot of them understood it, but there were
Mm-hmm.
some that didn't. And for myself, again, from the aspect of, yeah, these guys are good, but what about the guys that didn't make it? So I look at those guys and I say, well, maybe I should have, in different scenarios, obviously, but maybe I should have kicked him in the butt a little bit more. Maybe I should have uh, had a better plan, laid out a better plan, because that's something I also tried to do too. Was in my mind, I had a plan for each kid, um, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yep. Yep. I think, and no matter what, right? I think that's the nature of the beast. There's always their pure athleticism, their genetics, their mental toughness, and their as a coach you inherit a lot of that, and then there's only so much that you're going to be able to influence. The great ones, I think at least have an opportunity to be great almost right away. And you've
Hmm.
worked with some great ones. A couple of them are playing professional sports right now, that be baseball or not. Some are high level Power 4 kids, Division 1 kids, and it sounds like you stay in touch with them still and go to their games when you have the opportunity, talk them on the phone, FaceTime them, do all those things, right? So now you don't have you're not coaching them specifically, but you have a relationship with them. What role do you play with them now, being really remote? So are
Yeah,
you? I mean, maybe I can answer it for you. Are you were the coach? Now are you just the counselor in this episode here? Are you the counselor for them?
I, I, I wish that I could say I was just a counselor, but some schools don't do such a good job. And so I still have some guys calling me and sending me video. Hey, what do you think about this? What's going on here? Or like, I've never done this. So I, I'm a little bit of both. Less hands on because I'm
Mm,
not there, um, but it's still. I mean, I look at them as like my kids, honestly. So
yeah,
whatever. Some of them I'm hands off with because you got to be, and then others they call me often. So it's a great thing either way.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's the greatest compliment, I think.
Yeah.
Um, well, what advice? What's maybe the best advice that you've ever received from during your playing career from another coach that you try to instill into your athletes that you work with?
Um, I don't know that there's any advice. I think the best thing the coach did for me was give me a rope and give me like patience, right? Like show
Mm-hmm.
me patience, not um, still get on to me if I needed it, but understand that hey, Cephas is going to work. Like I don't need to push him. I need to corral him a little bit more. And so I think just understanding the difference between personnel. Um, I think probably the best, probably the best information I got was, hey, if there's a righty on deck and you go 2-0 on the lefty, face the righty. So, because as a pitcher, you want to if you're a pitcher, you try to get everybody out, and there's times where you kind of pick your poison. And so that was one of the things that I learned. But I think what I did at the end of my career was I started picking everybody's brain. So whether it was an infield coordinator, outfield coordinator, pitching coach, I was always with him anyway. The manager, like I always sat by the manager. And I would always, if somebody was doing early work or something like that, I would always go out and watch because I was done with my work already. Until now, I'm just either going to sit in the locker room or and do nothing, or I'm going to go learn. And so I learned a ton of things. Short answers, I learned a ton of things, but it was just because I would always go out, and I knew I was at the end of my career, so I would always go out and just try to learn from those guys, so I could,
And I
impart.
and I saw you doing that in your coaching career, and that's something that I've always done. I don't know if I learned it from you or, but every time that I coached and I was in the dugout, I always tried to make sure all the kids were down by me as much as possible.
Mhm.
If I was giving signs, working with pitchers and catchers, whether it be on deck, I always tried to have as many athletes near me as possible, and so that we could just talk. And I always encourage them to ask me questions, like constantly ask me questions, because I think that's part of the game that is underrated and overlooked. I see dugouts all the time that coaches on one side, kids are on the other, sitting down, not standing up, not interacting, not asking each other questions about baseball. They're probably
Mhm.
a lot of times you not probably a lot of times you hear them talking about everything other than baseball, or even seeing people on phones and dugouts, and that it drives me crazy. And I said I might have learned that from you, but uh, it's definitely part of it that I think is can be improved upon as an outsider looking into dugouts and fields right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the job training, right? Like, I I have a ton of information in my head, but I can't give it to you all at one time, right? So if you're sitting with me at a game, I'm going to be talking the game, and so you might pick something up you didn't know, and so it's kind of like it's in real time as opposed to like a classroom setting or a practice field where your
Mm-hmm.
body's working more than your mind's working. And so that was the question you asked earlier about what did I do to kind of transition or make it a smoother transition pitching wise. Um, I always sat by the coach, and so
Mm-hmm.
regardless of there's a lot of things I think you can learn just by looking as opposed to doing. Like I don't want to fail because it's the natural progression. If I can see somebody succeed in that moment, right? And so I might not want to go through that same situation that guy went through. And so I think that, like you said, that's the thing where I think we have kind of failed the kids um, of learning is, hey, we're not going to be in the dugout just playing around. Hey, if you ground it out to the shortstop and you're upset about it, take your time, go over there in the corner, but get out of that and let's figure out what happened there. Or, hey, did the guy make a good pitch? I need to control, especially young kids, I need to control your emotions. And then if I can help you do that, then you'll eventually learn how to do it. Oh, it's okay. I walked the guy there, that kind of thing. So I think it's something that's missing in the game is the game actually being taught. These kids are good. They're really good. But the gameplay sometimes suffers.
Yeah. So the game has totally changed. And you said something earlier where your mom said, "Don't waste my $25," and then you said you went to
Yeah.
Walmart and you got a glove. Um,
Yeah.
one thing
$20.
that's changed is the cost. Is the cost. Could you have the Cephas of the old? Could he have lived through this current climate of club ball and not spending $25, but spending 2,500 or more every single season? Could you guys have made it that way?
No, no. There would have been no abs. There would have been no way. Um, and I think there were people who saw how hard I worked, and there were people who saw that I wanted to play. Um, like there would be pro guys picking me up on Saturday mornings, and some of them would donate equipment or give me equipment. Um, and I don't honestly, I think after that $25 outside of gas and the glove, I don't remember my mom spending money on baseball again. Um,
Hmm.
and if she would have had to, especially in this, no, this climate, it wouldn't have happened. I would probably played basketball or football. I
Which
mean,
would, yeah, which would be unfortunate to lose, lose an athlete like that in the sport of baseball. Well, which is, one of the reasons why I started Operation Player Assist is to help, offset the cost of sports, and to keep kids in sports. So hopefully this, if the new age Cephas is around, right, we could have helped you guys out. Your coach that you played for could have run an Operation Player Assist fundraiser, offset the cost for you and for your fellow teammates and for the coaches even as well. And so hopefully in today's climate, more and more people can become aware of some really easy, some fast, some efficient fundraising opportunities like Operation Player Assist provides, not just for baseball, but for basketball and football and all the other sports involved. So it is a real issue. I mean, it's definitely an issue that's plaguing sports right now. Too many kids are leaving the sport or all sports in general just because it's so expensive. I said 2,500, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard the $25,000 range, especially if you get into hockey and traveling all over the country for hockey. It can be a really expensive sport. So plug for Operation Player Assist there because we definitely can help out and help keep kids in sports. So now let's segue. All right, you've learned a lot as a player. You've learned a lot as a coach. Now you have a son. How old is he today?
he is 2 years old.
2 years old. So you have time. You got plenty of time.
Yeah,
But
I think
let's fast forward and go. All right, he gets to playing age. Call it 7, 8, 9, 10 range. What are you going to do with him? You said you wanted to keep him athletic. So what can you do now over the next few years to make sure that he stays really athletic, stays really engaged, everything stays fun for him? What can you do? What will you do to help prepare him for when that time comes?
I think well, he loves to run. So, as opposed to stopping him from running, I let him run. I don't make him pick up a bat. I don't make him do anything. But every once in a while, he sees the bat and he's like, "Daddy, ready, swing." And so we'll go through that thing for a little bit, and I am going to make him a left-handed hitter, but we'll go through that
Good
thing
for
a little
you.
bit. Yeah, uh, and then whenever his attention is there, I feed the attention. And so I think that's what I'm going to continue to do. I think what I'll do in the future a little bit is um, start working on some agility, some footwork stuff, getting his rhythm good, and just kind of seeing where it goes.
And then we haven't really tapped into your music career, but I know your son likes to play the drums a little bit. Um,
Mm.
so why don't you let's go back and talk about your evolution of your music career, even when you were younger. When did that start for you?
So I started playing the drums at 3, and so I
Okay.
think the first time I played um, in front of anybody may have been around 4. So from the age of 4 until 18, when baseball really took off, I was playing drums in church every Sunday and Wednesday, rehearsals on Thursday. Um, and yeah, I think I recorded my first uh, song at 16 on the drums. So yeah, and then baseball took over, and I didn't have as much time to do music, and but then I learned piano. So I learned piano. I probably say at about 20. I really took it serious. Started taking it serious at about 23, 24. And so I would use that time, like if I was off in a different city playing baseball. Every city that wasn't a home city, I would find a music store and I would go sit in there and play and just play. And my teammates would say, "Man, what are you doing?" Like at first they were like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I'm like, I just want to go play piano. And so I would go play piano and it would clear my mind. And, I would sit there as long as I need to sit there and then go to the field after that.
And are you playing right now?
Yes.
Still playing like to
I'm
this day? Are you playing for the church too?
yeah, playing for two churches and trying to keep my son away from the piano and just trying to keep him on the drums right now. So
And does he get to see you play at church? I'm sure that's got to be pretty great for him to see his dad on that stage.
yeah, he does. He loves it. He's like you can just see him standing on the chair, like pointing at dad. He's like, "Daddy, daddy." So it's a really really it's a cool thing. And like the other day, he was like, "Daddy, I play drums," and I was like, "Yeah, you play drums." Like so, it's cool, cool
That's right.
moments. Like I saw a picture, a card of myself, and uh, I remembered Father's Day. So it was Father's Day. I remembered that and just looking at all the kids in the stands with their dad and stuff like that, and I kind of reflected back and was like, man, I'm glad you didn't get to see that guy. Not for any bad reasons, but just for the fact of I wouldn't have gotten a chance to spend time with him, the way I do now.
Hmm.
So, shout out to all the professional athletes who are away from the kids. I don't know how you guys do it, but good for you.
It's a juggling act for sure. And
Yeah.
and you'll find that even, regardless of, you're quote unquote no longer a professional, athlete playing, but the juggling of, trying to raise a great kid and be a well-rounded kid, not only in athletics, but music and in school and be a great human being, right? I try to just
Right.
simply say that of like, just be a great human. There's a lot of different, things that can go right, but there's also a lot of things that can go wrong, and the people who you surround him with is going to be, really crucial for his growth and development. So you'll find that I learned this from one of my friends a long time ago. He said, "Do you know how a child spells love?" And I looked at him like, what do you mean, LOVE? Like, what are you talking about? He goes, "No,
Sure.
a child spells love Time." And I always resonated with me of like, that's what your kids are going to remember is the time that you spent with them
Hmm.
and those, all those little moments. So little cue for you and for all the other, parents out there is time is an important piece of, being a good parent and being a good role model and a great leader. Okay, so plays the drums. Um, keep him athletic, keep him active. Any sport that you're going to try to push him in a direction to, or anything that you're going to try to push him in any direction?
Um, I think baseball for sure. I think I think I'm probably gonna try to keep him away from football. Just because of the head trauma and all that stuff. But I mean, like I said, he runs a ton, and it's like, are you gonna be fast? Because I wasn't slow. I wasn't slow. I'm not saying I was a
Yeah.
burner or anything like that. But I did once run a 6'8" with a torn meniscus. That's a real story, Tony. I know you might not believe me.
It was like a shameless plug right there for yourself. I see what you're doing. Uh,
um, but yeah, so
oh,
I don't,
that's
I'm not really
that's great.
sure. I'm not really sure what he's gonna do, but whatever he does, we'll love it, and he'll try hard at it.
Well, good, and that's it, right? Is making sure they're trying hard and putting the effort in and uh,
Mhm.
and staying out of trouble too, right? Is like
That's right.
one of the greatest overlooked benefits of being in a sport, being involved in
Mhm.
any academic or athletic activity. Being in an activity, right, just keeps them away from, what could potentially go wrong, right? And surrounding yourself with other like individuals. That's, obviously really important, um, especially in today's day and age with technology.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. I think when I think back to my high school career, I probably at my high school I was probably the 78th best athlete, right? But everybody else got caught up into things. They got distracted. Um, and you go from being the guy who can't play to the last guy playing, only because, like I said, Thursday nights I was at church, Wednesday I was at church, Sunday I was at church, so I didn't have a ton of time to get into anything. And I didn't know I was honing a skill, but I was enjoying what I was doing, and it was keeping me out of trouble.
Great. Well, I just have one other kind of final question for you, and then I'll open the floor to you to see if you have anything for me or for anything you want to add. But I like to ask the question of the myth and the truth. So when it comes to coaching or playing, what's one myth that's out there? And it's for you, it's out there a lot. And what's the one truth? Like things that you've heard maybe over and over throughout your career that you have found out to be a myth or found out to be the truth? What's a myth and what's the truth?
Hmm. Um,
Ooh, it's a stumper.
it is. Well, here's the truth. I was told I that things would just click for me one day. And people saw me working hard, and they saw the struggles, and they said, "Hey, no, one day it's going to click. Just keep working. It's going to click." And then one day it literally just clicked, and it was like, dang, everything I worked for, and it just happened in this moment. And obviously, you try to keep it going. Um, so that definitely happens. I don't know if it's your brain catches up with your body, or your body catches up with your brain, or you learn to process things better, or whatever the case may be. But that's definitely a true statement. Um, Now, myth. Well, here's a myth. People watching the games think it's easy. So, and
Yes.
they think
Yes.
they think that whether you're a professional athlete or you're a kid um, playing, you should never do anything wrong. Like this, like you got it. You should, and that's a myth. I think you have to. The moment I came to a realization of I don't have to be perfect. I want to be my perfect self. As a player
Mm-hmm.
was the moment I was able to accept the failures and then move forward. Because you have to accept the failures no matter what. It's just whether you move forward. And so that's definitely a myth. Or, oh, here's another one. I'll give you two. That the guys at the highest level aren't trying hard. They are. It just looks easy because they're good at what they do. And so,
Yep.
the game speeds
It's a
up.
great one.
It doesn't speed up to the fan, but it speeds up to the players and they adjust. And because the fans don't get to see it at that level every day, it looks like they're not playing as hard as they should be.
Awesome. Those are great. Those are great. Appreciate it. I do have one other
Sure.
one for you. Um,
Okay.
so you're now working in sports yet again, but in a little bit of a different realm. You decided to join the Operation Player Assist team as as account manager, as a customer success associate, a campaign associate. Why did you join Operation Player Assist, and why is this role that you're in right now? Why is it so important to you?
Simply because of my background, really. Again, the $25, right? Like I wouldn't be able to play right now, and so I think helping families push their kids in the direction that the kids want to go, and helping keep kids in the sports, I think it's important because again, we talked about the troubles that can happen. Kids are kids; they're going to get into things, but I think what I've learned is redirecting is a really really big tool, and so sports can be used as that. And I think it's horrible that kids can't play because they don't have the money, right? And so
Mhm.
this helps that. And so I just think that that's the biggest for me. That was the biggest reason of like this is a no brainer. I get to still be in sports, um, and I get to help kids that I might know or might not know. And that was the whole goal of me coaching. And so it kind of aligns with the goal that I set out to coach.
That's great. That's great. Well, they're obviously very blessed to have you, and I'm sure your continued hard work and that you've learned playing and coaching for so many years is going to translate perfectly into your role at Operation Player Assist, and many countless, hopefully thousands of people will benefit from what you're doing. So thank you for doing that. Any final thoughts? Any final notes that you have?
Yeah, I got one. Yeah, Tony,
Okay.
we've always talked about like you're the guru, right? So I think it's important to highlight that you are the only person I know that I've met. Might take that only back, but you're one of the only people I've met who had two people, two young adults playing at the D1 level at one time. Um, my question is this.
Oh, you're flipping the script back on me. I love it.
Yeah. My question is, so I'm at the age of 2 right now. That
Yep.
transition through their life, like how proud of your kids are you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it kind of goes without saying. It's an enjoyment. It's a mental struggle. I think there's, as you know, as in your playing career, it's an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes you're great, and sometimes you're not. And so, as a parent, unlike being an athlete, you can't control that outcome. You can only be a spectator, and you can only be the counselor in that relationship. So you know, when things are going great, obviously as a parent, everything's great. But when they're not, um, you have to control your own emotion and help them through that time, which they all will inevitably do it. But yeah, the ride is amazing. I mean, different times of their career, have different levels of enjoyment or different types of enjoyment. It was the youth time frame was great. We were always running around. They were involved in everything. They swam, they played tennis, they played basketball, they played flag football. I think for a little bit, they played soccer, they skied. I mean, they've literally done everything. So we would just try to point them into the right direction, help ask good questions even of our own kids, point them in the right direction, and point them to the path that they loved. We never really tried to tell them, which sport that they should play. We actually tried to coach them away from baseball and softball. Believe it or not, it didn't work out really well for us. But yeah, the ride was amazing. Wouldn't change a thing at all, and I think they're better human beings because of it.
Yeah,
So
I
I
couldn't
think,
agree
yeah, I
more.
think you have an exciting time ahead of you, and I'm excited to be part of that journey with you.
One last question.
Yep.
We talked about parenting and while the kids are playing sports, right? What were the conversations when they were younger? Not now, but like the conversations when they were younger, when they wouldn't have such a good game, or things that you saw that they could do better, kind of thing. How did you go about those conversations?
Um, well, you had said like, knowing how to read the room, and I think it's in those situations too. It's knowing how to read the room per per person. My daughter and my son are very different people, and how they handled their own adversity, and so knowing when to be tough on them, when not to, knowing when to ask good questions, when to not to, when to just totally leave them alone. I think that's a lot. That's probably the biggest thing to learn is there's just so much emotion in the moment that they need their own downtime and their own time to reflect. And it's typically never after a game or after a tournament that we talked at all. We would let them, as parents, we'd let them kind of vent in their own way and let their emotion come out of them in their own way. And then I think I said this before of there's striking when the iron's hot. We learned to strike when the iron was cold. Like just let that steam come out of them, let them, and then it could have been a day later, it could have been later that night, could have been a day later, could have been a couple days later. But there's always a debriefing that I think is important during those times, but when you do that debriefing is more important. than how you do it. So I think that was probably our biggest learning lesson as parents, and helping them overcome that, because they, as you know, they're all going to fail, but what's next? When we played all types of tricks that we could, excuse me, I've used that Jocko video countless times of, good, you failed, good, you struck out, good, you made an error, good. Like, it's just always a learning experience for them. And so we tried to just make sure that they were aware that this was just part of their growth and development, that they needed to fail. And we always try to have them, push them to that level of not constant failure, because you didn't want them to stop playing the sport. You wanted them to continue to like it and to love it, and want them to come back for more. But just bordering on that level of enough failure to make them better and improve, but also to keep them in the sport, which is a tough balancing act as well. We never made it easy on them, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Well, Cephas, those are good questions. Kind of keep me thinking. Very, very rarely do people flip the script back on me, but I appreciate you doing that. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the hot seat here. Coach and counselor comes out every week. We'll trickle out some information, and then release these every Friday. We'll have a lot of other different people on in future podcasts, and continue to try to evolve the game and involve the knowledge of youth leadership on and off the field. So thank you for that. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.